Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us again today. We're the Three Gigs, Three Guys in Glasses. I'm Paul. I represent the subcontracting community.
I'm Jim, and I represent the general contracting community.
I'm Craig, and I'm going to play owner.
And we get together from time to time, have a cup of coffee, and talk about our scar tissue as it relates to the construction industry. It's a great industry to be in, but it also comes with a lot of problems. One of the problems that we have in the industry from time to time, or maybe I should say all the time,
On every project,
is how we go about sequencing the horizontal construction on our project. Jim, give us a quick definition of what we mean by horizontal construction or horizontal builders.
a horizontal builder is a contractor who provides the infrastructure that feeds utilities to a building. Examples include power, water, sewer, communications, and storm water.
We'll probably add to that all of the travel infrastructure as well, right? Roadways, parking lots,
public improvement, paving, sidewalks.
Anything in the public right of way.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and then every now and then, and depending on where you're at, and we're in California, but it may not be underground. When it comes to power and communication,
It's still going to be considered vertical.
But
I mean, horizontal. Horizontal.
right.
I get mixed up horizontal and vertical right there.
So having to put in poles and setbacks for poles and all that stuff, that's horizontal.
Bridges, horizontal, dams, golf courses.
Golf courses. Yeah.
Okay.
Big grading operations.
All right. So why is horizontal and why does it matter? Well, horizontal, vertical. I'm the owner. I don't know this necessarily, nor do I care. What's the problem, boys? Why can't you get it done?
Well, so there's it's sequencing, right? It's if you think about it, if you're going to build a building right here on this piece of paper, you have to have all the utilities coming to serve that so that when you're ready, you can turn it on and things will flow in the right places and flow out of the right places and turn power on and turn power off and communicate with the world.
So the building, which I have had plenty of, can be all done, which I've had, and punched, which I've had, but there's no sewer or water or power.
Yeah.
And so it sits, waiting for that to happen.
Waiting for that to happen.
Why can't you get that right?
No, why can't you get that?
Yeah, why can't you?
I was ready.
That's funny. It is typically an owner responsibility to coordinate with those
I was really
agencies
hoping you
that
wouldn't
need.
remember that.
Because somebody, I'm going to say at your level, not even at this guy's level, but at your level, failed to go down to the city and get the proper permits. Because many times they think, I have a building permit. It includes plumbing. I have a building permit. I have an electrical permit within that building. You think that you're covered, except that there are additional permits to be pulled for that horizontal construction outside.
Right-of-way permit.
And sometimes an additional permit even for that would be outside your property on the public right-of-way.
Yeah, I would say owners, this is in a way low-hanging fruit for you as the owner, because more times than not, it's the owner. Whether it's actually owner doing it or it's just FUBARs in the process, but it's on my side of the table, therefore I own it.
Yeah.
You can't start your underground work, your civil engineering, your power. You can't start that soon enough. And I see a lot of owners who think that about the time they're going to really start digging into creating construction drawings for the building, that's the time that they'll start to think about all of these other people. And that's about 3 months too late.
And let's say the more wise, is wiser a word? Wiser? I think
the wiser,
the wiser owner may have actually tried to phase their project, if it's a large project, to actually do all of that site work as a different phase.
Right. Can I share one anecdotal story? A current project I'm working on right now as we speak. 2 years working with the power utility provider to get a set of approved drawings. There are multiple buildings on the site. And then we came through, and one of the users decided they didn't need gas. And the agency, after we were started construction on their infrastructure, the backbone of power and gas to provide to each of the buildings, the agency said, you know, that's a change, and we're going to put your project on hold, and you're going to go through our change process.
Oh,
well,
man.
3 whole months later, we just got the drawings back, and you think everything got put on hold? No, the buildings are being built. We're almost ready, but now we're going to be waiting for power.
So now you're getting into my nightmare where I've got the buildings done and we don't have gas.
Yeah. And like we said, it's typically the owner working with a consultant who's working with that agency to get that all lined up.
And either not pushing hard enough or following through, or not seeing the bigger picture, or uncovering those issues soon enough. The bottom line is that there is a natural order of events that should take place.
That's
right?
what I was going to ask.
Yes, I mean it goes.
Is there a sensible?
Yes, you bring you come. Let's talk a project that's dirt. Right, it's a green field, never been developed before. The very first thing you're going to do is bring the graders in. Right, we say that, but that would be the ideal thing. At the same time, though, if there are utilities that would even be incorporated with that grading operation, or maybe even below that grading operation, we would do that. So a lot of times, storm drain features, deep sewer sometimes goes in at the same time, or very, very closely associated or coordinated with those grading operations, so that we can get the deepest things in first. Deep and big is what we're really trying to get first, right? The huge pipe, the huge infrastructure that would be, very obstructive to your project once you want to start bringing in the vertical trades.
Okay, so I mean, it does make sense. If I'm going to put a building here, everything that's got to go under that building or to that building should get put in first.
Exactly right. So, and sometimes you just look down at the page and you see, all right, here's the building pad. There's a sewer line coming out, and there's just 20 feet away from that is an existing sewer. That's an easy thing, right? Well, when you look at the elevations, you realize that when the grading operation is finished, they're going to have built an underground parking structure. I think it's going to be 40 feet deep, and then they're going to backfill all of that area. And then if you just look down, that last 20 foot of sewer is not installed yet. Because that's an outside the building thing. And normally we would come back in and dig that after all the grading was done. But in this particular situation, this was at a local university. We saw that as some coordination with the grading contractor. Hey, let us get in there at the same time that you are grading down for those footings of that underground structure. It was either a basement or parking, probably a basement, I guess, in this situation. But we need to be able to come in at the same time that you are at that level to go under that footing, so that we're digging 2 or 3 feet deep and making the tie-in to a sewer that might be 4 or 5 feet deep, instead of coming in after you build that building, now digging down from 20 to 30 feet deep.
Right.
And would you believe that we struggled getting that conversation to be had? Because now
because of the general or because of the owner?
The general contractor was kind of pushing back on that, like, well, we just want to get our grading done. Well, no, you need to have us come in, or you don't want us coming in. And first of all, you don't want the price of this. We were talking to several, contractors during the bid phase. You don't want the price for us coming in there and digging 30 feet deep. Right?
Yeah, I was going to say, it either has to be a really wide trench to make it safe to get down to 30 feet, or a lot of expensive shoring to get down
and
there.
It's an engineered project now. And that's always, it's safety and everything else associated with it. Nobody wants that. And so with a little bit of persuasion, we were actually able to do that. But now, from your perspective, does that coordination actually hold up then after we all get the contracts and get out there? Because now this guy has to understand
seems like it gets
the
a little
dynamic
psycho.
of that. And I have to be able to come in. He has to be able to call off his grading operation in that place for a few hours while I come in and do that work. and we have to be able to work together on that, or
Yeah.
else it's all going to come to power. And that works all the way through. I mean, we were talking earlier about situations where somebody has to go under an electrical duct with their sewer line, as opposed to over it. And then who goes first, right?
Yeah.
And each of those contractors wants to get in there first.
Yeah.
You know?
Make my operation as efficient as possible.
Right, exactly right.
So
Risk of you.
what we're calling vertical is a building permit, and it's predominantly one building permit, right?
Yes.
Maybe there's
Yeah.
some plumbing permits, but it's one building
Now,
permit.
you have general permit, and
Right.
then you have the trades within. Right?
And I get that permit from the city. I turn in my drawings, and the city goes through it, and they give it to me back. Now, you're putting in a whole bunch of horizontal work. Are you just going to the city too and getting that figured out with all the power and everything and what you need?
No. There's right-of-way work. There's there's typically coordinating with, again, a utility provider to get that work to the site.
If there's there'll be electric if there's gas and or electric.
Gas and electric, and they might be two different providers sometimes.
Right.
Then you have whatever the water department, they have their own set of rules and standards.
Because sometimes that water department is an independent water agency that's not associated with the city. Sometimes
that's
it is
what
the city.
I go to this city on a lot of projects, and I pay the water bill, but it's paying the water bill for the water department.
Yes.
And that water department is like a different entity entirely.
Yeah, here's a funny one. So there's always embedded somewhere in those civil drawings a little chart that says your wet tap fees, and you have to pay that fee separately than all the other building permit fees.
Right.
And that's basically to get the city's department to come out and tie into the water line when you're ready.
And usually that gets pulled at the very last minute while we're
waiting.
We're sitting here, with our pipe literally within 5 feet of that main line, and we want to do that wet tap and get out of there. And we
that's an owner problem.
Owner problem. Yeah. You forgot to pay the fees, Mr.
I have to admit, there's a lot of times I get a call from the contractor going, "Did you ever pay the wet tap fee?" Because we're ready for somebody to come in and hook up, and then we're scampering looking at how to pay them.
And then, of course, the power companies are always negligent in getting out there to bring in those last transformers
I think they've
and stuff on the project.
Gotten worse in the last 5 years. They're terrible.
And by negligent, do you feel like they're neglecting, or do you feel that? Do you think it's a?
I think it's a power play.
This is another whole discussion.
Yeah, I can't read the room like I usually do. I'm gonna look out there and say, "Hey, anybody working for the power companies? If you're working for the power companies, and we happen to disparage you here, sorry."
To me, it seems like it's an impossible process. I deal with them because as the owner, I'm trying to clear the path for you guys to not whine at me. And I deal with a lot of great people who are very interested and sincere and motivated to do things. But they say, well, unfortunately, this falls into subplan B5, which means you need to wait 60 days before I can do anything.
So it is their fault.
Well,
because they need to push harder on it. Then you need to have a better system. They have to have a better system.
Yeah.
So I'll always just stop right there. They have to have a better system. You have to have a better system.
And we're not breaking new ground. Every community that I've ever done work in, there is always a committee that's made up of that utility company's people and various developers and builders in the community, and they come together once a month to talk about basically how it's so difficult to get power.
And your sense of urgency isn't their sense of urgency. And I think that's the problem, because once the development gets to a point, there should be a tipping point. I mean, there should be a pivot point for everything beyond that. And it should be a drive toward completion, not roadblocks keeping you from completion. And that's what it actually seems like, right? From the owner's perspective, I think.
For somebody who's an owner, it's easy to get caught up in thinking about the building. What's it going to look like? How's it going to? How does this express me? And let's spend a lot of time and energy working on that. Meanwhile, there's the civil and all these people. They've got to do their thing, and it really should be almost the opposite. Not almost. It should be the opposite. You should have the horizontal pegged.
So-
Absolutely
dialed
buttoned up.
in.
So I'm really
Yeah.
glad you said that, coming from the owner's
Yeah.
perspective. But then there's this other guy. He's here, right? This
Yeah.
general contractor. And my criticism of general contractors over the decades has been that it seems like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, this is the right forum to do that, right? It seems like the only thing they're interested in is getting some concrete up out of the ground. It seems like everything else is almost incidental. They just want to see concrete coming up out of the ground, and they will rush that process. They want to get that building started at any cost. And unfortunately, that's the operative word, at any cost, because as soon as they start excavation for their footings, or if it's subterranean, they have just messed with the sequencing of the horizontal construction.
Yeah.
And many times that's going to create change orders, different site conditions for those contractors that are coming
My
in.
favorite word.
Right? And then we
two
have to
words.
deal with it. So I will give you a chance to rebut that, right?
Well, you
Because-
can't take a pretty picture of the infrastructure. It's underground. You can take a pretty picture of a building and show somebody.
I know, right? It's like, hey, look at this. Look what we're doing for these whole 3 months. Nothing's going on your site except for this. But this is the most important thing from our perspective, right, as underground wet utilities or dry utility contractors.
So the bottom line is this is something that I think most owners don't think about. It's a secondary thought.
Yeah.
I think contractors do think about it, but it's kind of we're just going to deal with the cards that were dealt. And so the subcontractor is waiting to find out what the plan is and who is now in the wrong sequence. And then you're out of sequence. You're going to give them a change order. You're going to give me a change order.
I'm going to pay the bill
because I didn't get the bill in time.
Right. So Jim,
or there is another scenario where there's 5 or 6 of you out there between paving and everything else, and the contractor may never have actually sat down and seriously sequenced it with their subs. They set the schedule. They gave it to me 5 months before we ever signed the contract, and that's the schedule. And sometimes you feel like that is a problem, that it doesn't get sequenced right up front once everybody's on board.
Well, I think that's true. I think that in addition to all of that is also just the pragmatic sequencing of things and even the planning. So it seems to me, again, this is just from coming into projects for years, and then from my own mind saying, I want to be in that room where they made this decision. Why did they decide to do this instead of this? For example, one of the things that should happen in the horizontal planning would be to ensure that the graders are leaving the site with an accommodation for the underground utilities.
For the dirt?
The dirt.
The spoil,
right?
what you're digging up.
Right. And yet many owners don't want to do that, or maybe it's the general contractor, I'm not sure, who would buck against that other than maybe cost. They see, we need to undercut this by X number of inches or feet in order to accommodate all the spoils. Now that could be because they're not certain what the condition of that soil is going to be, and they might not be able to use it, and so they just let each trade handle their own, being more expensive to you. You mentioned a little while, I'd be interesting to hear this. You said that they raised the building pad on a current project that you're working on. Why did they do that?
Due to the elevation of where it sits in proximity to sea level.
Okay, so it didn't have anything. It didn't have anything to do with balancing the project.
Yeah.
Okay,
but it is a balanced project.
Right. So many times that happens, they didn't consider the balancing of the project, and they said, "What are we going to do with this dirt? Can we raise the pad?"
Raise the building pad,
and that's almost an afterthought, right?
Yeah.
So the coordination at that level would help everybody. And then in many of those cases where they said, let's just raise the pad, all of a sudden it's like, man, if they would have just done that to begin with, it could have solved a lot of these infrastructure running into each other and coordination. We would have had that extra 1.5 feet at the beginning.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we could probably spend another hour and a half because I haven't even begun to tell my sad stories.
Yeah.
But we're trying to keep this to a reasonable period of time. This has been our discussion about in sequencing of horizontal and vertical, and it is so critical. And it is, I feel, an art or science that is not demonstrated a lot out there in projects I've dealt with. We're the 3 gigs. If you like this, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe. If you've got a comment, something that Paul said that totally torqued your wrench, feel free to tell us. And stay tuned for our next video.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
watching.
See you later. Thanks.